I put a post up in the community tab the other day asking what is the Ravens' biggest need heading into the offseason? And in that poll, I listed wide receiver, edge rusher, offensive line, or other. And the results are in. For those of you who voted, you said offensive line, and right behind that, edge rusher. And I can understand that because we have several players who are entering free agency. And so let's have a look. This is a pretty lengthy list this year in terms of players who are free agents. Now, I know as you're looking at this list, you're thinking, some of these players, I would be happy if the Ravens decided to part ways with them and let them walk during free agency. And even some, you might say, it would be addition by subtraction if the Ravens did not bring this particular or some of these players back. But I do think that there may be a key free agent or two who the Ravens should prioritize re-signing because they have several holes to fill on the roster. And that said, I think that it's not just about bringing in a player or re-signing a player in free agency. To me, it's more about having something else to go along with bringing a player in. It has to be something that the Ravens are doing internally that's different this year, especially because we have seen the way the Ravens have lost in the postseason year after year after miserable year. Something's got to change. So along with bringing in a player or two, there's got to be a shift in the mindset of how you approach this offseason. So the first thing, as we enter into free agency, don't be cheap. Don't be chintzy with your coins. Go out there, get the best player available, even if it costs you more money. Because sometimes getting a bargain or a discounted player doesn't always pan out because you get what you pay for. We should be in a win now window because the Ravens need to come out here this upcoming year and win it all. No questions about it. And in order to do that, you can't always stack your roster with cheaper players hoping to save money because it doesn't always work for you. Last year, we decided to take Eddie Jackson at safety when we could have had Justin Simmons. Eddie Jackson was cheaper. That's the direction we went. How did it work out for us? So let's not make the same mistakes that we made previously. Let's be better. Let's do better this free agency. That brings me to point number 2. Be aggressive in the draft. The Ravens have 11 draft picks. 11. You don't need all 11 draft picks because certainly when you do use all of your draft picks in years past, how many of those picks have worked out? How many of those picks came in and had a significant instant contribution? Not many. So if it means that the Ravens need to trade up in this draft to get the best player available in the draft at whatever position it is that you determine that we need, do that. If it means the Ravens need to get rid of some of those draft picks to get a player who can come in instantly and make a difference, do that. Another thing for this draft, Ravens do not draft injured players because they might have fallen to a second round or high third or late in the second round or high in the third round. Don't do that. If they have a history of injury, whether it's in college, and I'm not speaking injury on anyone in the upcoming combine, but injuries are inevitable. If there is a player who falls because of an injury, we don't necessarily need them because how has it worked out for us, David Ajabo? When we thought, oh, we're going to take this player in the second round who would have been a first round pick, but for his injury. We need to be, as I said a moment ago, in a win now window. That's the mindset for the Ravens, or at least it should be. The next thing the Ravens need to do is figure out what we're doing at offensive line. From the list of the free agents that we saw, one name that stood out to me was Ronnie Stanley. If we can prioritize bringing him back, I think that would be good for the Ravens. But because Ronnie Stanley just got that nod for the Pro Bowl, I don't know if that's realistic. He might have priced himself out of Baltimore. Last year, Ronnie Stanley received a 71 overall in his PFF grade. Now, to me, he is needed because the question for Ronnie was, can he stay healthy a full season? And we saw that. Now, was Ronnie perfect? No. Did he get beat sometimes? Yes. But overall, he did a great job of protecting Lamar Jackson's blind side. And last year, it didn't look like we had a plan. And it appeared to be just an experiment with the offensive line, using a guard here, a plug and play player there, and a swing this and a tackle that. It just didn't work out. And so several games into the season, we were kind of looking at this offensive line, questioning, what are we doing here? What is the purpose? What's the plan to protect Lamar? This year, we need not have that. If the plan is to let Ronnie Stanley walk in free agency because we don't want to spend the money that he's asking, what are we doing? I don't want to see the Ravens rely again on rookies to come in the draft, and we draft an offensive lineman, and first day up, they're ready to be a starter, because you just don't know how well that rookie will do in the NFL. You don't know. And this is what I mean by experiment. Last year, our offensive line was just too young and too inexperienced starting out for the season for my liking. I'd like to see us do better in that regard. If you are going to allow Ronnie Stanley to walk, Ravens, make sure that you address it in free agency, where you bring in a veteran to protect Lamar Jackson, especially on his blind side. Next, I think the Ravens need to add a possession wide receiver. I want a big body, proven wide receiver, a veteran, to join this team. That's what I want. I know some of you might be saying, that's not necessary. That's not a necessity. We have other issues on this team. That may be. However, I think we have Zay Flowers and we have Rashad Bateman. I know you're saying Zay Flowers just came off of a 1,000 receiving yard season. Bateman had the best season of his career, and that is true. But beyond those two, who do we have in terms of reliability as a playmaker? Some of the names that we saw on that list of free agents: Tylan Wallace, Nelson Aguilar, and I know we have some depth there at wide receiver in Miller and Sims. But I want a player who, if Lamar Jackson is under pressure, the pocket is collapsing, the play is breaking down, it's a 3rd and long situation, and we need to have a player who can go up and get that 50-50 ball and make that contested catch. You bring that player in. A question was asked: do we trade Mark Andrews for a DK Metcalf? Leave a comment down below and let me know what you think about that scenario. And my answer is this: I don't know. I'm on the fence. I believe in Mark Andrews still. Even though the evidence has shown otherwise, especially in the postseason, I still believe in him. However, before I can give a true answer, I need to look up the stats for DK Metcalf. How did he perform this past season? Has he been on the decline in recent years, or is he still performing at an exceptionally high rate? That matters to me. But if not a DK Metcalf, go out there and get T. Higgins in free agency. I know some of you are saying, well, where are we going to get the money? These players that you named, DK Metcalf, T. Higgins, these players are expensive. Where are we going to get the cap space? Well, you get the cap space by stop overpaying defensive players. Nnamdi Madubuike, Roquan Smith, Eddie Jackson, Marcus Williams. That's where you get the extra money. So if it means restructuring, that's what you're going to have to do. And speaking of members of our defense, we already know the Ravens are going to take a cornerback the first round. So I'm preparing myself. Get over it, Yolanda. That's what's going to happen. Because at corner, we are pretty thin. We have Marlon and we have Nate. Behind them, who do we have? I know we have TJ Tampa. I generally forget that he's on our team. And then we also have Jalen Armour-Davis, who really can't contribute because of injury. Oh, yeah, and there's Tre'Davious White. So I expect the Ravens to bolster the roster there. Again, I repeat, for the Ravens, be aggressive. Whether it's in the draft or whether it's free agency, take the best player available. Don't try to cut corners. Don't be cheap. Get it done. This offseason, the Ravens need to also focus on bringing in an edge rusher, a proven game wrecker. I said earlier in the video, it's not just about one player, but one player really can help us. But you've got to have a good mindset as you go in to select that player who comes onto your team. If you go out there and you get the best player in free agency or in the draft, that I think would do wonders for our team. For me, I would like to see the Ravens bring in Max Crosby. I've been asking for Max Crosby ever since that team beat us in week 2 last year, right? I've wanted Max Crosby on our team. But if that's not realistic, then you consider someone who also can be a game wrecker, such as a Myles Garrett. I'll take either of those. This list is certainly not exhaustive. There are many things that the Ravens could do to get us over the hump that we find ourselves year in and year out in the postseason. But again, we also need to have the proper mindset, the proper philosophy as we bolster this roster. Well, if you enjoyed the video, please do me a favor, give me a thumbs up. And if you are new, welcome, subscribe, join the family, and make sure your post notifications are turned on so that you never miss content released on this channel. Family, I will see you back very soon. Until then, take care, stay safe, and always remember, go Ravens. God bless.